Hi everyone, I'm Maimah Karmo, your host for Breathe TV. You're back for a special part 2 edition of our previous episode on the importance of marrying science and soul. We had a beautiful conversation about the importance of soul and the patient experience as they navigate breast cancer. But now we're going to talk about the science of cancer and what it means to be involved in becoming educated about science and research, becoming a research advocate, getting involved in clinical trials, and why it's so important to have Black and brown women be involved in trials, and how to overcome barriers to care and build trust and co-create with BIPOC populations. So back with me again are our special guests, LaToya Bowles Johnson, angel advocate, and Kimberly Wyatt, also a Tigerlily angel advocate. Thank you both for being so amazingly honest on the last episode. It was just like, whoa. It was like going to church, therapy, sister circle, everything at one time. It was so awesome. But I did want to come back for this special part 2 because there's so much we wanted to share, right, about the science of breast cancer and what we can do as Black and brown women and men to transform what our outcomes are in breast cancer care. You all know the numbers around breast cancer. We hear that Black women have delays in getting to treatment. And because of the lack of diversity in trials, we have a 40% death rate, higher than our white counterparts. How do we bring our human connection in our stories to ensure that we overcome these challenges and inequities in the healthcare system? I'll start with LaToya.
Well, I think it's just important for us to definitely, spread awareness. The health disparities in the medical community for Black women are just alarming across the board when it comes to our pain, when it comes to heart disease, when it comes to labor and delivery rates, and more importantly as well, breast cancer, where we're dying at, a rate of 41% higher than our white women counterparts. So I think it really, the most important factors of that is advocacy and awareness, so that that you are receiving adequate medical treatment, and so that you can advocate for yourself to receive the best medical treatment standards that are possible.
What are your thoughts, Kim?
I personally, decided to educate myself first. I'm an insurance broker, so I sell life insurance. I sell cancer policies. I just talk to people. I just give them my testimony, let them know that what they can do as far as getting prior authorizations, as far as getting overrides for medications, as far as if they need home health aid assistance. So I just, like LaToya said, the education is everything, because the more the more you can advocate, not just for yourself, but for other people too.
So you help patients get health insurance while they're navigating cancer care?
Yes. I assist them with Medicare and Medicaid as far as getting their health insurance, because a lot of people don't know, you can get assistance with, their bills, with their chemotherapy, even, speaking with the social workers at the hospitals. They have access to different programs like the Tigerlily Foundation and other programs too, to assist them with. Some people need help with getting transportation to their appointments. Some people need help with over-the-counter items because some insurances don't cover. Some people need help with just the actual surgery, they can't afford it, or, they have a high deductible in their insurance plan. Some people need help around the house because after they get done with chemotherapy or even surgery, they can't move around or can't get out of bed because of, how their body is feeling or even healing. They're not made aware of what they can do or what they can't do. I suggest that everyone gets on whatever hospital they go to, gets on the My Chart, because you want to see the testing results. You want to see the lab results. You want to see the radiology reports. You want to see your medical record. So that's really important to get access to those documents. And if you know someone, like not, that knows about medical terminology, because they may be using words that you can't, understand, or you don't, the definitions of, there's always Google, and there's also Google Translate. So those things are available, but just make sure that, there are some even free mammograms in the area that you live. You can always go on to online, Google.
It's amazing to see you both representing Black women in cancer care in different ways, and as breast cancer patients. I'm going to ask LaToya. So one of the things that you do as a Tigerlily Angel Advocate in your role in the community is working to increase cultural awareness and cultural competency, which is one of our Tigerlily major goals, and to break barriers and disparities when it comes to communities facing cancer at a higher disproportionate rate. What role do you feel science has to play in cultural competency? You don't see many Black women like us as advocates, and you certainly don't see a lot of Black doctors. So what role should science play in increasing representation to break down these barriers?
Thank you for that question. It's definitely multi-layered. Representation does matter. We do need to have more diversity in medicine. We do need to have more healthcare providers who look like the patients that they're treating in certain communities. It breaks down so many things. It breaks down a level of feeling mistrust because of so many different physical harms that have been done to Black people in this country. So there is a high level that many patients build because they may not be able to identify and feel trustworthy and feel comfortable with speaking to someone who may not look like them. So not to say that just because of a certain provider doesn't look exactly like you or share the same skin color, that they won't provide equitable care. That's not what I'm saying at all. But they have to feel that level of trust. And they have to feel like you actually care for them, and they actually have to feel like you're going to take care of them in their weakest moments. When someone is coming to, your practice or the ER, it's because they're sick and they want to feel better. In that setting, you have the duty as their healthcare provider to take care of that patient as it is your family member. I've had so many patients approach me and say, where's your practice? Where do you practice outside of here? And I'm like, sorry, I just work in the ER setting. I'm just treating that patient like I would my sister, my brother, my mom, my uncle. So, and patients know that. So I think you just have to have that level of making sure the patients feel comfortable. A patient who's newly diagnosed with cancer, there are a lot of emotions that happen at first. I can't speak for anyone else, but I know for myself, I really did not hear and listen to what was being told to me during my first appointment after I was diagnosed. It was like a blur. I met with a radiation oncologist, a medical oncologist, a breast surgeon. I met with the therapist. I met with my nurse navigator. And I just remember crying the whole time. So it's very important that you have someone who goes with you to all of your appointments, because there's just so many things that are being thrown at you that it's easily to, not be able to digest everything and comprehend everything, because you're just so emotional dealing with that diagnosis. And so I think that it is the responsibility and the accountability of many cancer centers, whether they're comprehensive or not, to have a specific group of team members, such as nurse navigators, who live in the community, who can speak the language of the community that they are providing care for, so that there are different educational pathways that are set up, such as an online presentation that newly diagnosed cancer patients can go through, so they can understand certain terms, like Ms. Kim was saying, as far as that is concerned. There should be an educational course. There should be a requirement.
In high school, we teach sex ed. Why don't you teach breast ed? I think that it's so important that we understand racism and the badness of it all. When I found my tumor, my OBGYN was white. She was a white Jewish doctor, and she took care of me. She advocated for me to get insurance, to get the script written, to get everything. Then she said her first question was, what are we going to do? She didn't say, what do you want to do? What are we doing? Because we were a team. And then she found me a surgeon who was another white woman, who dismissed me. Told me to come back in my 40s. And then my OBGYN helped me she said, keep asking. And so I kept pushing until I got diagnosed 6 months later, triple negative. The lump had doubled in size. Then I had to find the surgeon. The first surgeon I found was a black male who was African male. His first comment to me was, cut them off, cut off your breast. That's what he said to me. And I just remember going like, I felt like he had slapped me and poured cold water over me. My body just went, I was like this. And I just said, I got to go by. And then the woman that I ended up finding that I went to was a white woman. And she had so much compassion for me. When I went to her, I was so shaking. You know, they put you in that gown. They like put on your gown and wait for the doctor. So I took off my clothes, put on the gown. And I was so scared. I was sitting like this in the chair with my knees under my chin, just like shaking. And she came in there and she's like, hey, bud. She said, it's okay. And she pulled her chair next to my chair and knee to knee. And she leaned into me and she said, give me your hands. And she held my hands. I leaned into her and she said, breathe, just breathe. And we just breathed for the first few minutes. She said, just breathe. And she said, I got you. You're going to be okay. And that woman, I remember it was about this same time of day after work between 4 and 5. And she was like talking to me. I remember when I got in there, it was afternoon. And when I was done, the sun was set. But she was holding my hand. And when she was done talking, my feet were on the ground. And I share that story all the time because it's really about compassion and human care. But the fact is that someone could be sexist or anti-feminine or think that your breasts don't matter, right?
That surgeon, she reassured you, is what she did. She made you feel like you were a human being. She touched you and she made you feel like, okay, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be okay. And so I think it's important to identify as a patient with your healthcare provider. You'll know, like, just trust your gut. Really, really, really trust your gut because they're working for you at the end of the day. And you can find someone else if you don't feel comfortable with them.
Do you think that providers are aware of their privilege, the power and the level of influence they have over a patient, or not over a patient, that's the wrong word, with a patient? Because they have so much privilege and so much power and influence. I don't know if they know how much power they have to influence our lives with the right level of cultural competency, the right level of leaning in, the right level of listening, and how they can transform our healthcare journey. What would you all like to see in terms of healthcare and then scientists and how they engage Black and brown patients in terms of using their privilege for a purpose, right? Not for a way that can make us not trust.
To answer your question is that I don't think that many realize the power that they have and the privilege that they have and that the impact that they have on a particular patient or someone newly diagnosed with cancer. You know, when we're going through medical training, of course, we're taught the books. We're taught the anatomy, physiology, the pathophysiology. We're taught how to diagnose a patient. We're taught the science behind it. What I would like to see more medical training is just to be more of a humanitarian, to have that great bedside manner, to answer those questions for your patients, to make sure that they understand or give them resources to make them understand their body and their condition and what is going on with them. So there needs to be more of a focus on that. I mean, one thing that should be a red flag is if you go into a room with a physician and they never touch you. There's no physical exam. That's a red flag right there. If they don't touch you, that is a red flag. We have to retrain the medical providers to really get back into the humanitarian space. Not all, but some.
Yeah. And talking about that, I want to go back to Kim. So we're trying to figure out how to build trust in science, right? And in clinical trials. So there are more physicians now, working to bring their practice or go into underserved communities. But they're coming to a place that we call home, and they're new to that community. And we know they're coming there for a trial or because it's something that they need to do for their business. How do we make them know that this is, again, our home and that they have to bring a certain level of humanitarianism to what they're doing, not just coming because it's something that they're doing for their job?
To me, I feel like cancer, unfortunately, it's a business. It's $1 billion business. I've had a doctor like that before where they weren't really empathizing with my situation, more like feeling pity of my situation. So that took the humanness out of it for me. And then also, it's really important just to advocate for yourself. If you don't feel comfortable, you need to speak up. If you feel that the doctor is maybe giving you a misdiagnosis or not diagnosing you at all, you should, maybe get a second opinion.
Kim, how do we know the level of emotional availability, the emotional commitment, hard commitment versus just coming to just do the work? What do you guys think what you want to see as patients as we marry science in the community that would be like a best case scenario to see who really cares and who's just there for?
Some of my doctors I've had for a couple of years, and I know some things about their own personal lives, and even their own families. You feel like they care about you and they want your best interest at heart. And then it does not hurt to give a little, to be vulnerable back, talk about your caregivers at home or, a situation that you're going through, and they can kind of, steer you in the right directions and to get people in your path to assist you along the way. So those are the good doctors that that's going to be there for you, that is empathizing, not sympathizing with you. So that's the big difference. The empathy is not the sympathy. And then also some people don't have insurance, so sliding scale fees. If doctors have sliding scale fees, that's everything, because a lot of people don't have the level of insurance that they should have. So if a doctor is taking you and you're out of network, they care about their patients. They want their patients to, be alive.
What Kim's talking about for the viewers is that people know when you're not empathetic about what you're doing and when you're not coming with a heart-based energy. So I'm saying this because as a person that works with patients of color, I have a lot of times where I'm on a panel with people talking about solutions for patients, but I can tell when they're just talking about it as a checkbox or as a performance-based metric for their company, a performatory allyship. People know when you're authentic. So being authentic means, to what you just heard, you're listening to the person, you're listening to what their needs are. It means that you may be leaning into them, maybe that you're touching them appropriately, of course, to say that I feel you, I know that you're here, I hear you. Before I go into the next question, LaToya, you wanted to add something to what Kim said?
I just wanted to add from just more of the accountability standpoint that you were talking about, like how do we make the providers accountable for for cultural competency and what they're providing to our community. I think that we really do need to, again, it starts with retraining of the medical providers. I think that when someone takes a commitment that they want to go to medical school, we have to take medical ethics when we're going through training. But I think there should also be some other kind of screening measures in place to make sure that this person actually wants to treat humans, regardless of race, color, gender, whatever it may be, that this person is vowing, in addition to our Hippocratic oath that we pledge, this person is actually vowing to take care of humans. Because I see so many acts of medical racism still today that it's sickening. So I think it starts there, in my opinion. It starts there. We really do need to make people accountable. If they're just not doing it for the title, they're not just here for the salary, that they're here because they actually want to take care of human beings. And additionally, for example, I'll give you an example. If you want to have a medical license, like in the District of Columbia, you have to go through a training course to make sure you're tailoring to the specific needs of the LGBTQ community, that you are sensitive to their needs, you understand their specific needs. And it's a course that's required in order to obtain and maintain your license. And I think there should be something similar, for other communities as well, or other people as well, to help with the pledge that you're including and diversifying your patient base for all different walks of life, whether you're African American, whether you have cancer, whether you're preparing to have a baby. I think there should be something similar for other state licensing boards across the board, to make sure that you're pledging to take care of human beings, regardless of what they look like, regardless of their sexual orientation or whatever it may not be.
I think there should be something that's in people's licenses. They should be up for renewal. But even before they get certified, going through like a not a polygraph, but like some kind of like ethical, humanistic,
Yes.
race, anti-racism training and testing to see that they care. And we should be able to have hospital centers that are getting incentives or getting disincentivized if they're not meeting certain standards for their patients of color. So it should be across the board, whether it's,
Across the board.
FDA, NCI centers, healthcare systems, insurance companies, physicians, everybody. We do it every day as Black people to make sure that we're doing the right things to survive. Why aren't they doing that for us in the healthcare system? And again, I think that not every doctor is racist, but people are dying because many people are racist doctors. And the system's set up against us, and that's why many people of color are dying at higher rates, especially in breast cancer care. And breast cancer surpassed lung cancer deaths now. So which is horrible statistic. Speaking about breast cancer in science and research, like, does anybody ever told you that there's more than one and that it could begin in different parts of your breast or under your arms?
I mean, well, I knew about the different types, but I mean, I just have a different advantage because I had to go to school and had to learn about different, training, different pathophysiologies that affect the human body. But not everyone knows that. And I think that those are, I personally believe that we should talk about breast cancer and start teaching our young adolescent girls about breast examinations when they develop breast. It should not be something, because I know I was never taught how to conduct my own breast self-exam until I went to PA school, in my 20s. So it needs to be a conversation that we need to have with our young girls when they develop their breasts, and so that it becomes a habit and they know how to perform their breast exams when they're young. I met a young lady who developed triple negative breast cancer at the age of 19 virtually in Texas. So it can definitely happen.
Well, how do you have the conversations though? Kim, what do you think? How do you talk, now that you're both educated advocates and empowered and in the healthcare system, how do you go into your communities and share with others, your sisters, friends, mothers, daughters? Because when I turn on my Instagram or TikTok, all I see is things that are being fed to me, like, buy a new waist trainer, or people doing fitness stuff, or buy a new wig, or how to put on eyelash or contouring. I'm like, people are being thrust with all this content about being beautiful on the outside, but why not give people more empowered health content? So we are the ones you're waiting for. We're the power of one. You are the power of one. How are you using that power of one to go back in your community and give back to those who need to hear this information about breast cancer and breast health?
Well, me personally, I always tell people about my testimony and to make sure that they, if they don't have a doctor, to, especially women that are 40 and up, if they already haven't had a mammogram, to make sure that they get a mammogram. Here in Charlotte, I always advocate for Charlotte Radiology. They're pretty good as far as the breast examinations in the mammograms and the 3D mammograms. I push for people to get the 3D mammogram because they can see more, because darker skinned women have the denser breasts. So the 3D mammogram is needed. So a lot of the insurance companies do not even cover the 3D mammogram. I'm pushing for the 3D mammograms. I'm advocating. I'm, talking to everyone that I know. And then the younger women, it's really hard because they can't get mammograms. Like I said, it was 2 years for me to even was able to get a push for the mammogram. By that time, I was in stage 2. So if I would have got the mammogram in the beginning when I first felt the lump, I probably would have been in stage 0 or maybe even a 1, and it may have not been as aggressive. But because the age is 40 instead of lowered, it's really hard.
People think of science as this, a really complicated thing, but understanding the science of cancer and being educated about it and research and what to know, what to ask about has helped you guys still both be here today. Can you share with our viewers? Because people think of science as this big, scary thing, and unless we as Black and brown women get involved in STEM careers, in science and research, and of breast cancer in particular, we won't have more Black and brown physicians, oncologists, surgeons, radiologists, scientists, researchers, and policymakers to work with us to represent our population. Why is it so important for you, LaToya, and then Kimberly, to have Black research advocates and Black scientific advocates?
It's important to me for us to have just more Black scientists representing us, because they're going to focus on the disparities that's killing us. That is why it's so important. If we're dying at higher rates to, in regards to breast cancer, 41% higher chance of death, then we're going to have more of those researchers who are going to focus on that to help prevent and lower the mortality rate that's disproportionately affecting Black people.
Thank you. Kim?
Well, first, it'll be nice just to see us as Black people, gravitating towards a change and going on the upward spiral instead of the downward. And then also just to build that trust. A lot of Black-owned businesses are popping up, and it's nice to see us in that type of a setting where you can actually, you feel like you can trust that person to advocate for you because they're came from the same background as you. So you have a little bit more trust into that person, because a lot of people go on Google these days and they're just type it up by Black-owned businesses. So some people just only support Black-owned businesses. So building that trust is everything. Also, the advocating is everything, and just moving forward and going in the upward direction and working together as a community.
I love that. What if there was like a Black cancer directory?
That would be so wonderful, because a lot of people would really be looking for their own psychologist. I just feel like you need that safe space in the beginning, especially because if you feel like you can talk to that one person, that's helpful just in itself, just to get it out.
One word that would describe your breast cancer journey before we sign off. Let's go with Kim. Your journey in one word.
My journey in one word, I would say whirlwind, because that's exactly how I felt from the time I was diagnosed until the time it was over, or so-called over. I just felt like it was in a tunnel, and then woof, and then dropped me and landed me somewhere, and I had to pick up the pieces and figure it out. So here I am after the whirlwind.
And LaToya, what is your one word?
Roller coaster. That's it. It's a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster, and that's why we have Breathe TV. It's you've met two amazing women today, Kimberly and LaToya, talking about their personal experiences, but also how science can be integrated with soul, and how we can engage more Black and brown people in research and patients in research. It's a roller coaster, it's a whirlwind, but it brings together sisters too, right? I never would have met you two if I hadn't gotten diagnosed. And so I think breast cancer, the journey of breaking down your walls helps you realize who you really are and brings out strengths you didn't know you had. It also makes your heart open to people you would never have known before and become their friends and sisters and loved ones. And so I would ask you all, anybody who's watching, if you're a potential ally, you're a physician, some way you want to think about how to open your heart to patients and remember why you took the oath to serve patients and protect them. How do you become more humanistic and more open to loving and leaning into your patients? If there's someone you know with breast cancer, know that for them, while they're smiling, they could be scared, feeling like they're on a roller coaster, or going through a whirlwind, or like me, going to a new destination where I got there and didn't know the language and I was totally lost. So beyond our smiles lie sometimes fear and overwhelm, but you could be our partner and use your privilege to help us to walk with us as we navigate breast cancer and become more beautiful, stronger, and transformed throughout our breast cancer journey. I want to thank you all so much for watching Breathe TV with us today and for being with us in this beautiful sacred space as we share our journeys and grow together. Until next time, love yourself, love each other, and bye for now. Thank you so much. Bye.